You can use this video. This is on the second quadratic word problem assignment, but we'll do this part separately as a review for the retake. So I'm going to go through the different kinds of problems. Solve by using the square root property. That means you want to get the squared term by itself. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides and then divide by 3. So I have the square root term by itself, or the squared term by itself, so I can take the square root. When I take the square root of both sides, I get x plus 5 equals plus or minus radical 8. And radical 8 simplifies to 2 radical 2. So my solutions would be negative 5 plus 2 radical 2 and negative 5 minus 2 radical 2. So you always isolate whatever term is squared so you can take the square root. Zero product property, this basically means factor and or set it equals 0 and then factor. So I'm setting this equal to 0. I'm going to factor out of 3x, 4x minus 3, and then you set both of these factors equal to 0 and solve. It's called the zero product property because you multiply something by 0, you get 0. So one solution is 0 and one solution is 3/4. So I recommend that you set them equal to 0 to make sure you don't flip this answer around. Solve by completing the square. So the first thing I'm going to do is divide everything by 2. And so I want to have a 1 as my coefficient. Now I'm going to move the 7 over. And to complete the square, you take half of the middle term, half of b, which is 9/2, and square it. 9/2 squared is 81/4. And you did that. You're forcing a nice factor here. You're forcing it to become a perfect square on this side. It's always whatever you took half of there. And then I'm going to add these fractions. So this is negative 28/4 plus 81/4, which is 53/4. And so now I've turned it back into a square root property problem. So I can take the square root of both sides and get x minus 9/2 equals plus or minus radical 53/4, which is radical 53 over 2. So your final answer, 9/2 plus or minus radical 53 over 2. When you write it as a solution, it's 9 plus radical 53 over 2 and 9 minus radical 53 over 2 because they have a common denominator. Solve using the quadratic formula. First you need to do a little reordering. So 3x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0. So this is A, B, and C. So to find my solution, opposite of b, plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2a. And then I just simplify, being careful. Use a calculator if you need to simplify. This would be negative 96. So 4 plus 96, because I have two negatives, which is 100, which makes this 10. So negative 2 plus 10 over 6, negative 2 minus 10 over 6. This is 8/6, which 4/3, and negative 12/6, which is negative 2. And that means back here, because the way those roots turn out. We could have factored this as well. So 3x squared plus 2x minus 8. I'm just going to go ahead and factor it. 3x and x. Guess and check. I'm going to use 4 and 2. If I put a 4 here and a 2 here, that gives me 4x and 6x. I can come up with a 2. So plus 6 minus 4. And that's where you get your negative 2 and your positive 4/3. So that's one where two different ways. Okay, solve by graphing. Several of you struggled with this on the quiz. You first have to graph it. So we need to find the vertex. So opposite of b over 2a, that's going to give me the line of symmetry and the x-coordinate of the vertex. So the opposite of b, 12, over negative 4. A is negative 2. So the x-coordinate of my vertex is negative 3. That also means that our symmetry of our parabola will be through the line x equals negative 3. And now I'm going to plug negative 3 back in to find y. So negative 2 times negative 3 squared minus 12 times negative 3 minus 16. So 9, negative 18 plus 36 minus 16. So that's positive 2. So there's the y coordinate. So negative 3, positive 2. Here is my vertex. And now I'm going to use the 1, 3, 5 rule to graph. Since there's a negative 2, multiply everything by negative 2. So it's negative 2, negative 6, negative 10. So I'm going to go over 1 and down 2, over 1 and down 6. At this point, it doesn't matter. We're solving the graph, but just so that you can see, negative 2 and negative 4 are my solutions. The last one says solve using any method. You first have to get it into a quadratic form. So I'm going to cross multiply 4x. This is going to be x squared plus 3x minus 1x is 2x minus 3. And then set it equal to 0. This looks like one I can factor, or at least check to see if I can factor, because there's only one set of factors we can use for 3, and that would be 3 and 1. I make this a negative 3, this is a positive 1. That gives me negative 2x. My solutions would be 3 and negative 1. A couple other things to note. Notice I put solutions in brackets, not to be confused with coordinates. So make sure your final solutions are always in brackets.